The wheel of the year is turning with each season, and now we have come to an equinox. This is traditionally a time of celebration and community thanksgiving. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, this is the time of the autumnal equinox, marked by the time when the days start getting shorter than the nights. We have many observances at this time. This is an astrological observation, the end of the summer. Neo-pagans of many kinds have celebrations like Mabon and Hausblut. Even the Judaic calendar marks this time of year with 10 days of repentance. The September equinox, or southward equinox, is the moment when the sun appears to cross the celestial equator, heading southward. The September equinox may occur from September 21 to 24. If we were standing on the equator at the equinox, the sun would pass directly overhead at solar noon. And after this day, the sun would pass more south each day. In the Northern Hemisphere, this equinox may be taken to mark the end of the astronomical summer and the beginning of the astronomical autumn, thus called the autumnal equinox. While in the Southern Hemisphere, it marks the end of the winter and the start of the spring, called the vernal equinox. The days have been getting shorter and the nights longer since the summer solstice. And now our time of daylight and of darkness are equal. After the equinox, the nights are longer than the days and get longer each night. For the fall of the year is more than 3 months bounded by an equinox and a solstice. It is a summing up without the finality of the year's end. Quote, Hal Borland. I say astronomical autumn because of seasonal delay. This is the delay of the observable changes in our environment from the time of change marked by the sun. On this graph, the blue line represents the length of daylight hours each day, and the red line represents the change in average temperature for each day. A clear example of seasonal delay is the summer solstice. The longest day of the year is the summer solstice, traditionally the time of Litha. But the days don't start getting cooler until the end of July, traditionally the time of midsummer, or Lammas. All the seasons have this delay and of 6 or 7 weeks. The autumnal equinox marks the end of the summer, but to some it won't really feel like autumn until mid-autumn at the end of October, which is Samhain or Halloween. Life starts all over again when it gets crisp in the fall. Quote, F. Scott Fitzgerald. Mabon. The holiday of the autumnal equinox among neo-pagans is called many things, most commonly Mabon. They are festivals of thanksgiving for the fruits of the year. Mabon is a character in Welsh myth, but the name wasn't coined until the 1970s regarding a Thanksgiving festival. In some traditions, these festivals are held at the full moon closest or after the equinox. Some modern heathen traditions mark holidays by the full moon. These holidays are commonly called a blot, which means a blood sacrifice, These sacrifices are typically dedicated to a god or ancestors. Usually the sacrifice would involve a great festivities and feasting. Haustbrot, or autumn sacrifice, was mentioned in the Ynglinga saga and in other texts. Freyr was the most important god in that event. In modern tradition, this sacrifice is devoted to a range of beings, including Skadi, Uller, Freyr, and Frigg. Herfaslik Frossung, a reconstructed West Germanic heathen tradition, is a harvest festival devoted to a range of beings, including Ing, Thonor, Frigg, and Woden. This is a celebration of the late harvest and symbolic offerings of the last sheaf. The Jewish calendar is a lunisolar calendar used today for the Jewish religious observations. It came from the Babylonian calendar. Like the calendars of most ancient peoples, it was a calendar based primarily on the lunar month, but was also sometimes had a 13-month inserted in order to keep it synchronized with the solar and agricultural systems. The 10 days of repentance are the first 10 days of the year. These days usually fall in September and maybe early October. This is a time of repenting for the sins and seeking out closeness with God. Starting with the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, a 2-day observance and celebration. Rosh Hashanah is known as the Day of Judgment. Prayers usually include recountings of one's misdeeds from the previous year. Yom Kippur ends the 10 days of repentance with the sought-after atonement and closeness with God to start the new year afresh. The autumnal equinox is the end of the summer, the second of the 3 traditional harvest festivals, and a time of thanksgiving and reflection of the year past in preparation for the coming winter before the year to come. Thank you. May your fires be bright and your nights warm.